There once was a story all about how. No. I'm Pearl.
And I'm Holly, and I forgot my witty comeback because Pearl did that cool introduction. And today's episode is brought to you by ADHD.
Unmedicated.
Unmedicated
ADHD.
and just out there roaring.
Yeah. The struggle is real.
Yes. We just pop off on certain things and just forget. Pearl told me a whole thing yesterday, and she was like, "Remember I told you that?" I was like, "Absolutely, I do not."
Squirrel.
My brain was going in 10 different directions.
Yeah. Well, that's my brain, which is why I get irritated when wrenches are thrown first thing in the AM.
I don't like wrenches in the AM either.
It's like, mess me up midday because I'm already screwed up. So
right.
By then I've walked into 12 rooms without remembering why.
Right.
And passed up the thing I was going to get. Because I saw like something on the floor.
Right.
It's
don't throw a wrench into.
I'm only productive
morning.
for like 3 hours of the day, and that 3 hours happens to be the beginning of the morning.
and that literally sets the tone for your day,
the entire
of how it's
day.
going to be. So when somebody comes at you and just
wrenches,
those wrenches come at you.
Squirrely little wrenches. Wrenches.
Millions of wrenches.
Millions of wrenches messing with me.
Right. So don't ever throw a wrench at somebody in the morning.
No, do it in the afternoon when their day's already shit.
Again, ADHD this morning, y'all.
Yeah, we're supposed to be talking about the flood in Texas, not wrenches and squirrels.
But we had to get that out. We had to get it out. We had a whole 30-minute rant section before we started.
I should start pressing
we
record.
Recorded it.
I just record our morning whatever before we even start recording, so we can listen to ourselves go.
We had headphones on and everything, talking into the microphone, just ranting.
Yeah, yeah. But I felt better. So.
Yep, absolutely.
It's good. But Texas.
Yeah, that is just horrific.
Super sad.
Mm-hmm.
Like the camp kids.
Yeah.
That's killing me.
Camp Mystic, and it just came up so fast in the middle of the night. I saw this morning there was a news report about this man and woman. They were in their house, and the water literally started rising, and like it was up to their necks.
Yeah. Like
in no time. So they had to make the decision to open their front door and just go out in it.
Yeah.
And it was like sweeping away. I think she had a life vest on, and her husband like was holding on to her, and then it ran him into some like shrubbery type stuff. So he grabbed onto it and grabbed her, and like held on there,
literally clinging to
the tree. And she had life vest on, but they could have been separated, and like
so many bad things.
Like it was horrible. And those little girls, oh my gosh, that's therapy for life right there.
Oh, absolutely. And I know, like, everybody thinks about all the humans in this situation, but there is a crap ton of displaced animals that also some that also didn't make it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's just really sad for everything that's living.
Yes,
over there,
absolutely, and
or was living.
Sending good vibes that way for sure.
Yeah. Hopefully, everybody gets taken care of.
Yeah,
the way they need to, all the help they need, and
the way they should get taken care of.
Yes, not no crap like post Katrina New Orleans.
Yeah, that was horrible.
Yeah. But anyway,
I guess we're gonna dive on into
that really sets the mood.
I know. I was like, now on a somber note,
on to things that are just as bad.
Right.
So today is part 2.
Part 2
of Derrick Todd Lee, the Baton Rouge serial killer. Most of this will just be victim based, just kind of a tiny glimpse into each person and then what happened.
Yeah.
We will not be going in order, mainly because I feel like most documentaries and everything else kind of goes out of order, but it makes sense too. It's weird, but it makes sense too because of the way, it's just the way things were figured out. So I kind of wanted to go in that direction.
Yeah.
And the order in which things were realized, I guess, is the best way to put that. I will say that before getting into all of this, that Charlotte Murray Pace and Pam Kennemore's moms, those two were mega driving forces in this case and keeping it in the media and everything else, like really pushing for all of this to get taken care of. So, shout out to those ladies, because that's hard work, especially all while grieving. But, you know, you want justice for your kids, so even if they're not really kids anymore, they're still your babies forever. Always. My kids are babies in a different way. No, I'm just kidding.
Mine is too.
pick on them on the pod. My daughter says, "This is how I know she loves me."
Right.
She picks on me.
She picks on me.
So we're going to start with Charlotte Murray Pace. Her family called her Murray. Her mother, Ann Pace, described her as a ball of energy, and she remembers that they would always say her first words were, "I will not, and you can't make me," instead of "Mama and Daddy."
She was sassy.
Yeah. And she said she was always running. So she said that was like true to form into adulthood as well. She finished high school at 16, college at 20, and one of the youngest recipients of an MBA degree from LSU.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah. She's super smart. She was a beautiful, successful, independent 22-year-old. And you will find that all of these women were, whatever age they were at, successful, independent women. She had a real zest for life. She had just accepted a job in Atlanta with a top 6 accounting firm in their internal audit department. She was so excited about moving to Atlanta, but the job didn't start until the fall, so she stayed in Baton Rouge working at LSU. On Friday, May 31st, 2002, Pace left LSU, washed her car, and went to her townhome on Charlo. She shared this townhome with a roommate, Rebecca, and they had been close friends for like 6 years. And their plan was to travel together to Alexandria for a mutual friend's wedding. And this friend actually used to also be their roommate.
Oh, wow, yeah.
It is surmised that while Pace was home alone, eating on the couch, there was a knock at the door. Her lunch would still be resting on the edge of the couch when the police investigated the scene. Investigators believe that he talked his way into the home and once inside attacked Pace. She fought back fiercely. Her attack was so violent, and she would actually be stabbed a total of 81 times.
Oh my gosh. Like, what do you get out of stabbing somebody that many times?
81
times? Like, when do your brain just go, okay, stop?
Yeah, like her lungs, her heart, stuff like that was like perforated several times from this attack. It's just insane to think. Like in one of the documentaries I watched, her mom actually said that the police had asked her what color her daughter's hair was because there was so much blood, they could not tell what color her hair was.
Wow.
And her mom, crazy as it is, like, she's like, I asked to see the autopsy photos and crime scene photos. She's like, I knew it was going to be hard, but I had to see them.
Right.
Like, she was like, I just had to see them. There was no way I was not going to look. So super sad.
Yeah, for sure.
So Rebecca had arrived home at 2, and she found Pace's almost completely nude body lying on the floor between the bedroom door and the bed. She observed blood all over the room, the floor. The bed was made, but the bedspread was also blood-soaked. In the bathroom, blood spatter analysis would find drips of blood that appeared to have dropped straight down in front of, like, the vanity. So they believe that Derrick Todd Lee held her in front of the mirror to force her to see what he had done to her. He then tried to sexually assault her as she died.
What a sadistic asshole.
Yeah. So obviously DNA collected.
Yes.
From
absolutely.
that situation. I just was like, ugh. Because I didn't, they don't put all of the, and I didn't put all of the details I read. Because I read court documents, not what was, like, just what was put on TV and stuff like that. And it's bad.
Yeah,
y'all.
they go
like,
into detail.
Way worse than what I just said. It is bad.
Yeah.
Like, to the point of, like, I literally felt sick. I'm like, what on earth?
Would possess somebody to, like,
somebody you don't even know.
Do something like that to somebody. Yeah, I just don't understand the mind of a sadist.
Yeah. So, 8 months before Pace's death, in September of 2001, there was another murder super close to her house. So, on September 24th, Gina Green, a pretty registered nurse who was 41 years old, was found in her home, sexually assaulted and strangled. When I say close to Murray's house, literally 3 doors away.
Oh, my gosh.
8 months before. Green was a very social woman and had a lot of friends, and was discovered because she didn't show up to work.
That's how a lot of people are discovered.
Yep. She was found in her bed after what appeared to be a struggle in the hallway. There were large stains that were later determined to be fecal matter. A clump of hair. Her earrings were strewn a good distance from each other. Her rooms, like, were just disheveled. They found her shoes that she had been wearing in 2 separate rooms. Like, she was, like, fighting back, struggling with him in a major way. Green's shorts, purse, and cell phone were missing, but were later found dumped behind a warehouse on Choctaw Street in Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
Dude, we used to clean a golf cart place over there.
Yeah. And that's an industrial district.
Very industrial.
Ew. Yeah.
Yeah. Additionally, they also found a kitchen towel there that appeared to be long to green. I guess it was, like, similar to other towels she had in her house.
Yeah.
So DNA again recovered from this scene. And the crazy thing is that Green had told friends and family that she felt like she was being watched. Even crazier, Murray and her mom had discussed Green's murder, saying that they suspected someone who had done some work in her home to have been the one who did this. So, at the time of Pace's murder, Green's case was still unsolved, and despite the close proximity of the cases, they were not initially linked.
So did they take DNA from Green's case?
Yes. So that's what I'm saying. DNA was recovered.
Yeah.
So they have DNA in both.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the other thing that I think is crazy is there's like a whole idea that maybe he saw Pace during the time that he was watching Green.
Possibly, yeah.
So, like, once Green was murdered, he kind of shift focus.
Yeah, because he had fixated on one, and then he's like, okay.
Yeah, so fixating on the next.
Mm-hmm.
But in between Pace and Green, on January 14th, 2002, Geraldine DeSoto, a 21-year-old LSU student who was planning to attend graduate school that fall, was found murdered in her home in Addis. Her husband found her lying in a pool of blood. He actually was the lead suspect until she was eventually linked to Derrick Todd Lee. Naturally.
Right, because the significant other is always the
first one. Right. So separate agencies are investigating these. You've got the Addis police and their whole little thing, and then Baton Rouge is handling the other girls. Neither are aware of the other's cases. And even further than that, neither are aware of another case that happened 4 years earlier in Zachary, Louisiana. So, April 18th of 1998, Randy Meebrewer, a 28-year-old single mom living in Oak Shadows neighborhood in Zachary with her 2-year-old son, ends up missing and is presumed murdered based on the whole scene inside her home. A neighbor had found her son wandering outside unattended, and she knew something was wrong because Randy would never let her son just wander around alone outside. So the neighbor called the police, and when they arrived, Randy was nowhere to be found. But the scene was pretty horrific. There was blood all over the house, evidence of a major struggle in the bedroom, and bloody drag marks in the carpet through the home to the door.
Oh, so he took her somewhere.
Yeah, he took her.
Oh.
One of Randy's contacts was found on the carpet, and it looked as though she had been beaten there, evident by the large blood stain that was surrounding this contact lens. So, I don't know if her and her husband were completely divorced.
Mm-hmm.
But again, he's the one they look at first.
Right.
There had been some violence in the relationship, and he even failed the polygraph test when he took it. The thing, I guess, that was the hitch for the police is why would he leave his son there?
Right. Yeah,
So,
I mean, that makes no sense.
Yeah. So David McDavid, who's a former Zachary investigator and then later became mayor, had also suspected a local peeping Tom, Derrick Todd Lee, because he had been caught in that neighborhood just loitering, basically.
Right. And hadn't he been caught when he was younger?
Oh, yeah.
In that area as a peeping Tom when he was like a kid?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because in 1997, police encountered Derrick Todd Lee frequently. He would park his cream Chevy truck in a bar parking lot across from the neighborhood and then would randomly hang out near stop signs.
I'm just going to stand here near this stop sign and hang out.
Yeah. They were like, every time because they would come and check him and they, pat him down. He's always carrying a knife.
Yeah.
And just being all suspicious, hanging out by like by, I'm sure mailboxes in the road,
Right.
whatever. He just kind of malingering where he doesn't belong, just lingering there.
Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious.
Right.
Hold on a second. I need to stand up because my back is starting to hurt sitting here, and I need to move my microphone up. Sorry for this interruption.
No, you're good.
I thought maybe sitting would make my legs feel better, but it's not helping. Okay.
So the police would actually tell him they knew what he was doing, and they would catch him eventually. And it wouldn't be by the stop sign. He had dozens of previous peeping arrests. Obviously, none ever landed him in jail.
Right.
But he was frequently arrested for it. In July of 2002, July 9th, actually, DNA testing in the Pace and Green case confirms that it's the same murderer. So finally things are kind of linking up.
Yeah, they're like, we might have a serial killer on our hands.
Something's definitely up. He's at least killed both of these people. Same attacker.
We need one more.
With lack of leads, the FBI is brought in to help, and we talked about this a little bit in part 1. The profiler said he was male, between 25 and 35 years old, low to middle class economic status, had a manual labor job, attractive and appealing to women, but also had awkward behavior with women, that he would be obviously very unassuming, which is why they're cool with opening the door for this guy.
Right.
Nothing about him would actually trigger any suspicion, but he himself would not take rejection well.
Yeah.
Any resistance would be met with escalation.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is proven by these horrific, violent scenes. And they say it's not just about sex, it's about power, rage, domination, control.
Yeah.
And when he feels like he doesn't have control, he becomes engulfed in rage.
And then they also said that he was white, because statistically,
they are white.
Most serial killers are.
And the truck driver tip.
Yeah.
Really solidified that. They didn't actually, there was no ethnicity mentioned until the truck driver tip.
Right, until he said something.
But they said his compulsive nature would also override any notion of consequence. Like, which is why he was probably so sloppy. It wasn't really a thought out process. He was just overcome with this need and this rage.
Yes.
So he just didn't care.
He just went in slashing and strangling and doing whatever with no plan.
Correct. So the same day that this DNA links Pace and Green, Diane Alexander, a nurse, was attacked at her home in Breaux Bridge, 45 minutes west of Baton Rouge.
Yes.
So that morning of July 9th, Alexander was getting ready for work. And again, the knock on the door. Derrick Todd Lee actually identifies himself as Anthony. And he asks if Diane knows the Montgomerys. She, of course, tells him no, I don't know the Montgomerys. And he then is like, do you think I could use your phone? And she's still kind of just blocking the doorway, not letting him in, not giving him an answer to that question. And so he then asks her, do you think your husband would know the Montgomerys? And she's like, my husband's not here.
Don't ever say that, ladies.
So, switch flipped.
Yeah.
He then overpowers her and forces his way into her home.
Right.
He caught her by her throat, telling her that he had a knife and would stab her in her eye.
Oof.
He attempted to sexually assault her, but could not perform. He hit her in the head and tried to strangle her with a phone cord he had cut from her computer. Then he hears her son pulling up the gravel drive, and he just runs out the back door.
Oh my gosh, that saved her life.
Yes, she lived.
Whew.
DNA collected here too.
Yes.
And Diane worked with the police to create a sketch. Unfortunately, like at this point, there's no connection of this attack and Pace and Green,
right,
that are already connected to one another.
And you're 45 minutes west of Baton Rouge.
You're in a different little spot, so they're like, who knows? Yeah. But sketch released, looks a lot like Derrick Todd Lee.
Yeah. But they're over here looking for a white man, and this is a black man also.
So 3 days later, on July 12th, 44-year-old Pam Kinnamore is taken from her home.
Mm-hmm.
She was an antique shop owner in Denham.
Yeah.
Yeah. But she lived on Briarwood in Baton Rouge. Her husband would arrive home to find a full tub and just a couple spots of blood on the rug and a minor disruption of some of the bedroom furniture. Nothing like major. Didn't look like something as crazy as what happened actually happened. But obviously there's no Pam. So he's like, what the heck? Another 3 days later, survey crews find a body south of the Whiskey Bay exit. It sat for 3 days in the hot Louisiana sun. Oof. So you know that sped up decomp. She's in swampland underneath the interstate.
Oh, yeah.
But DNA was still collected. Viable DNA.
Good.
They also located a piece of telephone cord found a few hundred feet from the body. It's later determined to be the same cord from Diane Alexander's house.
So he still had it in his hand and he took it with him.
Yeah.
Oh, my
but
gosh.
In the moment that they find all of this, those things are not connected.
Right.
So they don't know. But they collect the cord anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Kinnamore had been strangled and stabbed 3 times in the neck. The stabs were like 4.5 to 5 inches. And obviously it perforated skin, her windpipe, below her larynx. It opened her right carotid and both the jugular veins.
Oh my gosh.
She was also sexually assaulted. So the DNA they collect from her gets matched to Pace and Green case. We now have a serial killer.
Yep.
A multi-agency homicide task force is formed. And this is where all those crazy tips come in. And the truck driver says, yo, saw a naked white lady in a white Chevy pickup truck, white man driving.
Yeah.
So this fuels that whole white man search.
Mm-hmm.
This really caused a lot of other clues to be completely ignored because they still don't know this cord matches the one from Diane Alexander's. So they're not even paying attention to the fact that this was a sketch of a black man and not a white man.
Right.
So during all this time, too, Derrick Todd Lee's wife, his sister, and his mistress, which is one we talked about before, had all filed domestic violence and battery charges against him.
Oh, my gosh. This dude's wilding out.
Yeah, he's all over the place. Not good to anybody.
No.
On November 21st, 2002, 23-year-old Tranisha Danae Colombe disappears. Her family reports her missing. She was going into the Marines. Oh. So, again, I say successful, independent women.
Beautiful women that lost their lives.
Yes, but she was also pretty grief-stricken because her mom had passed, and she would go to the grave every day alone. After 3 days missing, a hunter found her body in the woods near Scott, Louisiana. Her car, purse, and keys were found near the cemetery where her mom was buried.
Did he attack her in the cemetery?
You know, that's what I'm wondering. They say she disappeared from her house, but did she? Did she disappear from
the cemetery?
The cemetery.
Like
out there,
her.
crying, visiting
Grieving.
her mom, talking, you know, whatever she needed to do to try to process everything. And you get snatched up by this
piece of shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she was partially clothed. And there was blunt force trauma to her head. And she was also sexually assaulted. There was literally a pool of blood like 30 feet from her body. And drag marks from that pool of blood to where she was found. And she was literally drugged through the mud. Mm. DNA again collected and matched the other murders. So now they know, here we are again. Yeah. He's just going to keep going. We need to really find this guy.
Yeah, and it was all over the news because I remember, you know, just my parents, like, watch your back, watch your, you know, around you. Yeah. That's when women started taking self-defense courses and put your keys between your fingers so you can stab somebody and all this stuff. Don't walk to your car alone at night, like all that stuff.
And everybody's afraid of people with white trucks.
Yes, that too.
White men in white trucks. Yo, daddy.
No. Yep, my daddy. I know, my poor dad in his white truck.
And the craziest thing is in 1997, I worked at the Subway.
Yeah.
That was inside of the Segan Lane Lowe's. Mm-hmm. And I actually worked with Danae's brother.
Oh.
So, super kind family.
Yeah.
Very funny. It is really, really sad.
It is.
So, Colombe's murder actually makes McDavid, the investigator, and Zachary suspect that Derrick Todd Lee is somehow involved in these murders.
Yeah.
Like, he's just like, it's got to be this guy.
He's just like, I'm putting my finger on it.
I don't care that they keep saying he's a white man.
Right.
It's just this stuff that's happening just sounds so much like... Because he's the one who was investigating Randy Meeber's stuff.
And he knew...
And Baton Rouge still doesn't know about her.
And he's been involved so much with Derrick Todd Lee, so he knew kind of his patterns. Right, and
all the
things.
Stuffs that he had been getting in trouble for.
Yeah, smart man.
There was actually another lady that he was investigating. It was... her name Connie, I think it's Warner. Give me a second, it's in my notes here, dang it. Yeah, Warner. She was actually like a 41-year-old accountant, and she disappeared from her home and was murdered in 1992, which would have been when Derrick Todd Lee was like 20.
Yeah.
It was actually August 24th that she disappeared. Her body was found a week later near Capitol Lake. Unfortunately, it had been outside during Hurricane Andrew, which occurred on August 26th.
Yep.
So any evidence on her was washed away.
Yeah.
They did collect like things from her house, like sheets and stuff like that. And up until this point, I don't think they ever tested any of that. I mean, it's 92, whatever. So I think them coming around full circle, it's part of what helps them get the subpoena.
Yeah.
For Derrick Todd Lee's DNA. But she had been severely beaten, and her cause of death was a skull fracture. Oof. But what triggers in McDavid's mind is a rainy night in 1993. Two kids were making out in a car parked in a cemetery in Zachary, and they were attacked by a person with a cane blade.
This sounds like an urban legend.
An officer passing saw the dome light on and approached, which forced the suspect to flee. I don't think he saw what was happening. He just saw the light on in the car and was like, let me go see why there's people in the cemetery. Because these kids were doing this all the time.
Right. These crazy kids out here making out in the cemetery.
Yep. So the victims survive. A sketch is created from this. And it literally takes them a year to get enough evidence to be able to bring people in for a lineup. And that year later, the female victim comes in and immediately picks Derrick Todd Lee out of the lineup. Unfortunately, unbeknownst to investigators, the statute of limitations had also run out on this case.
Oh my gosh.
So when they tried to get a warrant signed, it was denied because it had been too long.
Mm-hmm.
So they missed him with this.
Just by a little bit.
Yeah. Obviously, another case that the Baton Rouge Task Force doesn't know about. So they don't know about anything that's happening in Zachary. None of it.
Right.
And, that becomes the case of, we really need to communicate better with each other. Because Zachary is a skip.
Right, from Baton Rouge. Scott is a skip from Baton Rouge. It's not that far. It's right there.
Y'all talk to your neighbors.
Yeah. Collaborate.
So during this time, thousands of white men are swabbed.
Yeah. My dad was not. But he was also an older white man. So they were looking for, a younger white man.
Yeah. 4 months after Colombe's murder, there was some new testing that was being done in a Florida crime lab where they could tell race via DNA.
Yeah.
So in an effort to just test this theory, because it was so new, the task force randomly swabbed different investigators, sent it all blindly to this Florida crime lab, had them test it and send it all back. And every single one of them was correct.
Yes.
So they felt confident that they could then send this DNA sample from the murders.
Right.
This is not a Derrick Todd Lee sample. This is what they've collected from the murders.
Yes.
Off to this Florida crime lab. And that is when it comes back as African American. That is when they realize, holy crap, we've been looking for the wrong guy this entire time.
Right.
So the entire thing shifts. At this point, when that information is shared, David McDavid over there in Zachary.
He's like, I knew it.
He's like, let me tell you guys about this guy out here.
Yeah.
So he shares all his suspicions, revisits old crimes. Like I said, the Connie Warren stuff and all that. But in the meantime, on March 3rd, 2003, 26-year-old Carrie Yoder is kidnapped from her LSU apartment between 6 p.m. and midnight. Her boyfriend reported her missing. He thought her front door was locked, finds an unlocked window to get in because she's not answering the phone, she's not answering anything. Goes through this window, then realizes, holy crap, the door was unlocked. The only stuff that was weird in her apartment was the key holder was moved, like the little hanging thing on the wall, so it was shifted. He found her necklace broken on the floor and a spot of blood on her purse that was still inside the apartment. 10 days later, Yoder's body was found by commercial fishermen. She was partially submerged, not far from where Kennemore's body was found. She had been sexually assaulted, strangled, beaten, and stomped.
Oof.
DNA was collected, And it matches the other
Same.
murders. So, on May 5th, before they found Yoder, and independent of the task force, this wasn't in conjunction with that at all, the Zachary police and the Louisiana Attorney General worked together on the unsolved murder of 1992 Connie Warren.
Yeah.
Warner. And the disappearance of Randy Meebrewer in 1998. These two things are what allowed them to obtain a subpoena for the DNA of Derrick Todd Lee.
Yes.
So McDavid himself and another officer go to his house, knock on the door, show him subpoena, get 2 swabs.
Yeah.
From inside his cheeks.
He's like, I know you, let me swab you.
Yes. So they send that to the state crime lab.
Mm-hmm.
On a Sunday, the crime lab gets results and they start calling people. They say, we know who the Baton Rouge serial killer is.
Yeah.
Everyone needs to come now.
Yeah.
Come meet.
Let's go.
So they have a big meeting where like all big state officials, the task force people, everybody important, including Zachary police, because they're the ones that collected it.
Mm-hmm.
And they start like telling McDavid, you know, your DNA swab solved the case.
Your guy is the guy.
Your guy is the guy.
Yeah.
And so, like, you know, huge relief for everyone, except, as we talked about last time, the minute they got done swabbing his butt, they were packing and leaving. So he's in Atlanta.
He's like, let's go to Atlanta.
Yeah. So they have to issue a fugitive warrant to be able to arrest him there and bring him back to Louisiana. Obviously, after they arrest him, he doesn't confess to anything.
He's like, I didn't do anything. I don't know what you're talking about.
He never does.
Yeah.
And their plan was to go ahead and try each case one at a time.
Mm-hmm.
The reason for doing this, I know a lot of people are like, why not just do it all at once so that everybody gets done and gets justice?
No.
The thing of it is if something gets screwed up in one.
Exactly. It throws everything else off.
It throws off everything else. Because then that's that one little piece of doubt. So you work on every single case individually, make sure it's as solid as a rock.
Yeah.
And start getting convictions.
And you also want each sentence separately so they're not together.
I just feel like it's a smarter idea because if something goes wrong over here, you always have another chance.
Yeah.
Because you can't go back on that one you just did.
Yes.
So the first case that's tried is Geraldine DeSoto. They charge him with second-degree murder. He's found guilty. He gets a life sentence for that one. I mean, there's DNA in all of these cases.
Right. Like, there's no denying it. 100%.
So Pace's trial is second. They charge him with first-degree murder here. The trial was 5 weeks long.
Oof.
But he is found guilty. And at this one, he gets the death penalty.
Well, and he had so brutally murdered. I mean, he brutally murdered all of them, but
81
stabs and then making her look at herself while he was, oh my God.
Yeah. It's horrible.
Yeah.
I have no doubt that each and every single one of them went through some terrible stuff.
Absolutely. That it's just, oof. So he got the death penalty with that one.
So he got the death penalty with that one. Now, unfortunately, no other cases were done.
Yeah.
Before he goes and has a cardiac event and passes away in 2016. So, and that's something that everybody said. It's like, yeah, he died, but he didn't get to face execution like these girls did.
And he didn't get to face all those families that were grieving and hurting that he caused that pain to. And
I feel like all of them were there for support in those court cases that did happen. But it's like, I don't know. I guess you have to try to be like, okay, at least I knew who did it and what happened. Not the why, obviously, because, I mean, he's just knucking futs.
Yeah, for sure.
Because, like, he was just a rage-filled human being and was killing people. he just liked the looks of because he wanted some of that.
Yeah.
And they weren't giving him some of that.
No, not at all.
Pissed him off. So.
But then he would target certain ones and watch them and stuff. Mm-hmm. So it's just insane.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a sexual deviance mixed with rage. But it's like a forever open wound for those that
didn't get a trial.
But I feel like even so, like, Ann Pace says, like, that's not the horrific murder of your child is almost unsurvivable.
Oh, yeah.
She's like, I can't even sleep in an actual bed anymore. I literally sleep on the couch with the TV on, so I never wake up in complete darkness, and there's always a voice that isn't in my head, like outside of it. Because she said initially after it happened, she would sleep in the bed that her daughter would sleep in at her house, and she would constantly dream of her in the morgue, and like would dream that she was calling her to come pick her up. Yeah. Like, Mommy, come get me, come pick me up, you know? And I was just like, yeah, I mean, she's like living a basic tortured life,
a nightmare
since this. So it was just crazy.
Yeah.
And very, very sad. But yeah. So 7 victims, potentially 8. And then you have the kids in the, you know, the Diane, the other survivor. It's like, holy crap.
Yeah, that's harsh. And I mean,
and then you spend the rest of your time pretending to be a normal functioning human being when you're not.
He should have paid for his crimes, but also at least he's off the street and gone and not hurting anybody else.
And, you know, in some people's beliefs, like investigator McDavid, he was like, I still feel like he meets ultimate judgment post-death, and I'm sure he's burning in hell, if that's what you believe in.
Right.
If there is a hell, sometimes I believe we live in it, but cool.
Yeah. Maybe he's picking out, you know,
pineapples
with Hitler.
Maybe.
Little Nicky.
It's my favorite. Like, that's amazing. From the minds of some people.
Oh, right. Oof, but, that was a deep episode.
Yep.
I'm glad we ranted before.
Yeah, me too. So, on with the laundry list.
Yes.
Our theme music is by Patty Salzetta. Yay!
Yay, Patty!
It's the party at the end.
Yes. And make sure to share us to all of your friends.
Yes. Links to the episodes. Links to our Facebook. Link them to our Instagram, our TikTok, our YouTube. There's so many ways to show us off.
Yeah. And if you, like anybody, our listeners in Louisiana or anybody that knows of this case, if you have somebody that's personally linked to it, share it with them, you know, so that those victims' names are still out there.
Yeah, and if you have a story you'd like us to cover, email us at steeped@holdmysweettea.com. Yes.
And
stay safe.
No. Hold My Sweet Tea is a Drunken Bee production.
Bzzzt.
And remember to stay safe out there. And just because we're dipping doesn't mean you can't keep sipping. Bye.